Hey guys, Todd from Great Escape Farms here. Today I am standing in front of a persimmon tree. You can see some of the fruit still on the tree here. Just a moment ago I gave the tree a shake, and the way I was able to do that, it is just that little tree right there. So it's easy to give a shake on. A full mature tree that's 80 foot high with a foot or more girth, you're not going to be able to shake it and get fruit to drop out. But I did on this little guy here, and I was able to get a bag full of fruit out. So I am going to take these home and I'm going to eat the fruit, and I am going to take the seeds and stratify them and get them ready to plant for next year. So actually it won't be next year they'll be ready to plant, but I'll get them ready to grow next year. So I will run these on home, clean them up, and explain to you the full process on how to get these things up and going. And then I will be planting these throughout my homestead, and if there's enough available, I'll be selling them in the fall of 2018 and spring of 2019 season at greatescapenursery.com. Okay guys, so what I have is a bowl for the meat here and a bowl for the seeds. I'm going to save the seeds and propagate them. These are the ones that are not ripe enough, so I'm going to let them BLET for about a week. So I'm going to set these aside. I looked online. There are a lot of different recipes for persimmon, and I'm going to try several of the different recipes out. So what I've done since you and I were last together is I took them out of the bag. I rinsed these off. I didn't do a hard wash on them because I'm still picking a few things off here. Didn't do a hard wash on them because they are very, very soft. But actually, normally I don't even wash my fruit at all if I pick it right off the bush. But these did hit the ground, so any leaves or anything else, I did a quick rinse and just trying to pull a few things off. So what I'm going to do here is just open these up, and you can see there are a large number of nuts in here. What I'm going to do is seeds in here. What I'm going to do is try to get as much of the pulp off of the seeds as possible and put them in here, and the pulp is going to go here, and my hands are just going to be an absolute gooey mess after this, but that's okay. It's just part of the process here. Let's see, and what I'm going to do is get all of the pulp into the bowl here, and once the pulp is in the bowl, I'm going to use a blender and I'm going to blend it up, and I probably won't show that process here. I'm going to run it home for that. I will blend it up, and then I will put it in the freezer. Because there's so many recipes that don't require full ones, and there are some recipes that require full persimmons, but those type you want a named select variety that has fewer seeds than these. You don't want to put something in front of somebody that has a million seeds that they have to kind of go through. So what I end up with is a little bit of pulp here and a number of different seeds. So I went ahead and cleaned up here, a little change in plans. I decided not to blend this because in order to get anything to work in a blender, I don't know if you've done a smoothie or not, but usually you have to add water to get it to actually blend without gooing everything up. And I didn't want to add water at this point. So I'm just going to freeze this, play with it later. At some point I'll be adding these once these BLET. The seeds, what I did is I added water, and the casing around the seeds will eventually come off. So, and eventually, I mean over the next couple days. So I'll change the water out, I'll stir it, change the water out, and that will make it easier to clean the seeds. So I will show you that process as we go along. For right now, I'm gonna put these in the freezer. I'm gonna put these near the windowsill to let them BLET, and I'm just gonna lay these out by the counter so I remember to change the water, and that's it for today. Okay guys, so this is actually the next day. So these are continuing to BLET, and I didn't explain BLET earlier. BLET is the process of letting them sit on the counter for a few days to a week, and some are starting to get a little soft. These are very hard, so they they are going to take longer. So the process will vary there. These were in the freezer overnight, so they are frozen solid. Make sure that you label them, so write the name and when they went into the freezer. So let me push these aside here and give myself a little bit of room. And these are the seeds. That's what they look like overnight. You can see the pulp around the seeds is expanding a little. So what I do is I reach in there and I just kind of grab it and squeeze. And what this will do is start separating some of the pulp from the seeds, and then I will go ahead and rinse away or change the water out. And I'll do this several times over the next couple of days. And the goal is to get as much pulp away as possible. So then and I'm losing a few seeds, but they're being caught in the little strainer there. So this might actually be easier doing without so much water in there. Again, I'm just squeezing. I don't want to hold my hand up or I'm going to end up shooting seeds everywhere. And as time goes on, the pulp will get looser and looser, and I'll end up with less pulp and more seeds. So this is not a one-time process here, but we'll get it off eventually. And then give it a rinse. Pour off the pulp. Add some more water. And let it sit for another couple of hours, and I will repeat this process over and over again, and I will pull these out. Again, make sure you're starting with a clean strainer and you don't have meat residue or whatever else you had in the kitchen. So you end up with just the seeds in there. And again, like I said, I'll repeat this process over and over until I get down to just the seeds themselves. Okay, so I got a little bit anxious here. We're only a day into it, and I just didn't want to wait an entire week. I could have, but didn't want to. Plus, I have a drive back to my house from the farm, so I want to wrap this one up. So what I did is I took the seeds out one by one, and I just peeled it off with my fingernail and laid them out on a towel. And now they're back in the water, doing a final rinse. Okay, final rinse is complete. I went ahead and dumped the water out. They're sitting here. There's still a little bit of water in the bottom there. And next we actually mix it in with some wet peat moss for the stratification process, or simulating stratification. So let me explain stratification here a little bit. So persimmons and a number of other trees, they drop fruit in the fall, and you don't want the seeds in that fruit germinating immediately, because if they do, they have a couple of weeks of grow time, and then the harsh winter comes in and could kill the seeds or the little baby plants, because they haven't established much of a root system yet. So plants have created a safety mechanism so that the seeds do not germinate until after the winter is past in springtime. The mechanism does not allow a seed to germinate until after it's had 90 to 120 days, at least in my area, of cold temperatures around 40 degrees or below. So stratification is going to simulate that process by putting it in moist medium, and the medium I'm going to use is peat moss. And we will put it in moist peat moss, put it in the refrigerator for 90 to 120 days, and that simulates the 40 degrees. Then they can come out and be planted. And for me, this is, let's see, I am early part of October, so early part of February will give me right around 120 days. And once that's done, then I can plant them in the house and get them germinated. And after the first frost, I will move them outside, let them grow outside for the summer, and then they can be separated, sold off, planted permanently and everything in the fall of next year after they go dormant. And dormancy is when the leaves fall off. So, okay guys, so we're setting up for the stratification process here. What I did is I put a little bit of water in here, and I have peat moss right here, sphagnum peat moss. And what I'm gonna do is take this out and put it in the water. And then I'm gonna mix it up. And I know I'm gonna need more than that. And what I'm looking for is one drop or two to come out of that. squeeze it in here real good. So that's way too much right there, lots of drips. So I need to add more peat moss. And if I go over on the peat moss, I can add just a little bit of water to do it. And I could have put peat moss in and added water, but I will seem to do better having the water in first. And it's not a measurement of how much. I'm gonna do a couple of bags, probably sandwich bag sizes here. So this should be more than enough. Anything that's left, I'll put in the compost pile. You see, I got quite a few drops coming out of that, but I still have some dry stuff that needs to be mixed up. So I'm getting pretty close to my consistency here. And what you don't want is for it to be too dry or too wet. Still got some bubbles in here. So I'm going to break up all these dry clumps, otherwise they will suck up water later and it will end up being too dry for me. Okay. And I still have quite a few drops coming out, so at this point I'm just going to add a little bit in. And my co-star Murphy keeps sticking his head in here, Murphy the rat terrier. He always likes being in the videos. And speak of the devil, there he is. Hello. Hello. Okay. And I got a couple of drops out there, and with the stuff that's dry here, that should be just about the perfect amount. So I still have a couple of little dry pieces. Oh, no, that actually wasn't dry. That was just the color of it. Okay. Let's give it a try again. And what I get is 1 or 2 drops of water coming out. So that is the perfect consistency here. Okay, so I now have seed. I have the peat moss that we just put together outside. I also went ahead and, very difficult to see, but I labeled the bag that I'm going to put these in. So wild persimmon seed, because it is wild. There are named varieties, which these are not. It's going in on October 8th, 2017, and it needs to come out around February 8th, 2018. So don't have to be precise with the dates, just so long as you get between 90 and 120 days. I'm going to shoot for 120 and go from there. And I'm going to put some peat moss in, and we'll add the seeds. And there are some seeds in here I know are not going to be viable, and by that I mean, let me see if I can find one in here. I don't see any jumping out at me. When I was cleaning them up, there were some that were very, very thin and frail. Some of them even cracked in half, and I discarded those. But the ones that were very, very thin with not much to them, I'm quite sure that they will not work out too well. However, the way that I'm doing this, it won't matter too much. If they don't grow, then they will just end up as fertilizer for something else later. Okay. And we have that in there. You see the seeds are in there, but it's in moist peat moss. This will go in the refrigerator today, and it will come out in February. And at that point, these will be ready to plant in the ground. So that is it for this video. Please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. Thank you very much for tuning in, and have a great day.